A cold night in late November 1809, a young British diplomat stepped out of a roadside inn in Prussia, heading toward the waiting carriage. Minutes later, he vanished without a trace. No one saw where he went. No cries for help. No signs of struggle. Only his expensive fur coat hidden in a stable and a silence that chills the soul. Benjamin Bathurst vanished from the physical world as if he never existed. Murdered? Kidnapped by French spies? Or did he step into another dimension entirely? Are you ready to uncover the truth, step into the fog of time, and face a real-life enigma? In late 1809, as Europe burned in the flames of the Napoleonic Wars, a mysterious event shocked the world of international diplomacy: the complete disappearance of Benjamin Bathurst. At just 25 years old, Bathurst was a rising star in British diplomacy, dispatched to Vienna on a mission to strengthen the coalition against Napoleon Bonaparte's French Empire. Upon completing his assignment and recognizing the increasing danger posed by approaching French forces, Bathurst made the decision to retreat from Vienna and return to England. To protect himself, he traveled under the alias Coq, hoping to avoid detection by French agents or hostile forces. Accompanied by his servants, he journeyed through Prussian territory, neutral on paper, but far from safe amid the chaos of war. On November 25, 1809, Bathurst stopped in the small Prussian town of Perleberg and took lodging at the White Swan Inn. There, he expressed deep concern and paranoia, convinced he was being followed. His behavior became increasingly erratic and tense. As he prepared to leave and continue his journey, Bathurst suddenly vanished, seemingly into thin air, right before the eyes of those with him. No one clearly witnessed his final moments. Despite extensive search efforts, Bathurst's whereabouts remained unknown. His disappearance quickly became one of the strangest and most enduring unsolved mysteries in European history, giving rise to countless theories, from political assassination to the supernatural. Now, let's dive into the mysterious disappearance of Benjamin Bathurst together. To ensure his safety after completing his diplomatic mission in Vienna, Benjamin Bathurst, then operating as a special envoy of the British Crown, chose to travel in secrecy. With the European continent still engulfed in war and Napoleon's reach spreading across borders, the movements of a British official were fraught with danger. Bathurst, ever cautious, disguised himself as a merchant and assumed the false name Coq to avoid drawing attention from both French spies and opportunistic bandits lurking in wartime regions. He was accompanied by two loyal servants. One of them, Kraus, was also given a false identity, Fisher, to maintain the strictest secrecy. The other servant, though less documented, is believed to have been responsible for handling the luggage and overseeing their horse-drawn carriage. The group traveled by private coach, passing through various Prussian territories, areas technically neutral but unstable due to wartime tensions. On November 25, 1809, the group stopped at a small inn called the White Swan Inn in the town of Perleberg. It was a common rest stop for travelers, where guests could dine, rest briefly, and change horses before continuing on. Bathurst and his attendants arrived in the late afternoon, visibly exhausted from the journey. But according to witnesses at the inn, Bathurst's demeanor had drastically changed. He appeared unusually anxious and on edge. He refused to leave the dining room, despite being served, constantly glancing around the room as though sensing an invisible threat. At one point, he stepped outside and returned just minutes later, claiming he no longer felt safe. His behavior unsettled both the inn's staff and his companions, though none could have predicted the extraordinary event that was about to unfold. After spending several hours at the White Swan Inn, Benjamin Bathurst stepped outside at around 9 p.m. on November 25, 1809. By that time, his carriage had been prepared by his servant and was ready to continue the journey back to England. The night air was cold and silent, with only a few inn staff and Bathurst companions still awake. Bathurst was said to still appear tense, his eyes constantly darting about as if wary of something unseen. After leaving his room, he made his way toward the back courtyard where the carriage awaited. However, from that very moment, he vanished completely, without a sound, and without anyone clearly seeing him for the last time. His servant Kraus, who had been busy tending to the horses, later stated that he had looked away for only a moment, and when he turned back, Bathurst was no longer there. At first, those present assumed he had simply stepped aside or entered a nearby area, but after hours of fruitless searching, worry soon turned into panic. There were no signs of a struggle, no cries for help, and no evidence suggesting abduction. His luggage, valuables, and important documents remained untouched in his room. It was as though Benjamin Bathurst had stepped out of the real world and disappeared without a trace, marking the beginning of one of Europe's strangest and most haunting disappearances. Immediately after Bathurst's mysterious disappearance was discovered, a large-scale investigation was launched in the town of Perleberg. The local garrison, under the command of Captain von Klitzing, was promptly mobilized to search for the missing British diplomat. Realizing the gravity of the situation, an important envoy of the British Crown gone missing in a politically unstable region, Captain von Klitzing wasted no time in deploying all necessary measures. Soldiers began a thorough sweep of the area surrounding the White Swan Inn. They searched every stretch of the Stepanitz River bank, combed through ditches, thickets, and abandoned houses near the last place Bathurst was seen. The search extended to nearby farms and settlements, in hopes that Bathurst might have gotten lost or gone into hiding to avoid danger. In parallel with the ground search, Prussian soldiers and officials also began interviewing local residents. They questioned everyone who had been at the inn that night, as well as those living nearby, in search of any clue, unusual sounds, strange individuals, or suspicious activity in the area. Yet, none of the testimonies yielded any concrete leads. Despite deploying significant manpower and thoroughly combing the entire vicinity, the initial investigation revealed nothing. It was as if Bathurst had completely evaporated from the face of the earth, leaving behind not a single trace. After days of unsuccessful searching, the disappearance of Benjamin Bathurst seemed to have reached a dead end. However, an unexpected breakthrough occurred when the first clues began to surface, reigniting hope, but also making the case more bizarre and harder to explain. A few days after Bathurst went missing, an important item was discovered: the luxurious fur coat he had been wearing on the night of his disappearance. Strangely, the coat wasn't found in a public place or in his room. It was discovered in the stable of a local man named August Schmidt, who worked as a groom at the White Swan Inn. The fact that such an expensive coat was hidden in Schmidt's private area instantly made him a suspect. Schmidt was arrested and questioned several times, but he adamantly denied any involvement in Bathurst's disappearance. Nevertheless, the coat's presence in a space he controlled sparked widespread suspicion among both locals and investigators. Some believed Schmidt had stolen the coat after Bathurst vanished, while others suspected he knew more than he was revealing. However, the most intriguing clue was found on December 16, nearly 3 weeks after the disappearance. In a forest near the village of Quitzau, not far from Perleberg, locals discovered a pair of gray trousers torn by a bullet hole. Strangely, despite the bullet damage, the trousers bore no trace of blood, raising the question of whether someone had fired at Bathurst and missed, or if the pants had been planted to stage a fake scene. Both the fur coat and the bullet-riddled trousers were identified as belonging to Bathurst by his servant and other witnesses. Yet instead of bringing clarity, these discoveries only deepened the mystery, adding layers of confusion, ambiguity, and eerie fascination to an already baffling case. As the search efforts yielded no clear results, and clues like the coat and trousers only deepened the ambiguity, investigators gradually shifted their focus to potential suspects, those who had been present at the White Swan Inn on the night Benjamin Bathurst disappeared. The first suspect was August Schmidt, the stable groom, since Bathurst's expensive fur coat was found hidden in the stable he managed. Although Schmidt firmly denied any involvement in the disappearance, his possession of such a valuable personal item led to his arrest and multiple interrogations. Some believed Schmidt may have stolen the coat after Bathurst vanished, while others suspected he could have been directly responsible for a crime, possibly with robbery as a motive. Schmidt was not the only figure under scrutiny. Another individual, initially mentioned only briefly but later highlighted in investigative reports, was Mertens, a staff member working at the very inn where Bathurst had stayed. Mertens had been present on that fateful night and was known to have interacted with both Bathurst and his servant. Sometime after the incident, Mertens abruptly disappeared without leaving any message or trace. Years later, a human skeleton was discovered in a forest near Perleberg. Upon examination, the remains were identified as Mertens with a fractured skull, clear evidence of a violent death. This revelation prompted renewed speculation among officials and the public alike. Could it be that Mertens had known something crucial about Bathurst's disappearance? Was he silenced to keep him from revealing the truth? From this point, numerous theories emerged. Some believed Bathurst was the victim of a simple robbery murder, while others suspected he was assassinated for political reasons, perhaps even by French spies seeking to stop him from carrying critical intelligence back to Britain. Whatever the cause, the case remains shrouded in mystery, never fully unraveled. Over time, the disappearance of Benjamin Bathurst has become one of the most renowned unsolved mysteries in European history, inspiring countless theories, from political conspiracies to supernatural phenomena like teleportation or slipping into another dimension. However, when viewed through a rational lens and grounded in reliable historical sources, many modern researchers believe the case has been exaggerated and mythologized over the years. Among them, historian Mike Dash stands out for his sharp and objective analysis of the case. He suggests that many of the stranger elements surrounding Bathurst's disappearance were likely embellished through word of mouth, unverified reports, and the public's imagination. Dash and other experts argue that the most reasonable explanation does not lie in the supernatural, but in a tragic and all too real scenario, that Bathurst fell victim to a robbery that ended in murder. At the time, the Perleberg region was far from safe, especially for a foreigner carrying valuables and important documents. In an era marked by war and chaos, attacks on travelers were not uncommon. Therefore, the theory that Bathurst was killed, perhaps by thieves or by someone at the inn, is considered the most plausible, even though his body was never recovered. Nevertheless, Bathurst's death remains a significant gap in the historical record, a lingering reminder that the truth is sometimes buried beneath the thick dust of time and speculation.